You want to call it lazy, call it what you want to call it. As I'm getting older, baby, I'm not going to make this hard. Hello, welcome to Yellow Door Urban Homestead. I am Asia and I'm an urban gardener growing in a small space out in my backyard. And so today, y'all, we ain't got nothing to do, right? But I've been getting questions on like, how did I start gardening? How did I decide on my layout? And I say all the time, like I didn't decide on a layout. I just started throwing things out here and it worked out. So today I'm going to talk through how I started gardening, as well as how I decided on where things were gonna go as I had already started building my garden. Where we're gonna start at is how I started gardening, period. So what made me wanna start gardening? During the pandemic in 2020, I'm sure y'all can tell, if you're not new here, that I'm a person who likes to be moving. I like to be doing things, whether it's inside or outside, right? But during the pandemic, they said, you gotta stay at your house. You can't go nowhere. You can't be around other people. And if you do, it's the necessities. After a while, I was like, yo, we got to find something to do. And at the time, my daughter was young and very busy and had a lot of energy. And so we had a block raised bed on the other side of the garden where the green stalks are now. But if you remember, I recently cut down a tree. That tree was very much shading the one block bed that was smaller than the block beds we have now. So one day, just out here in my backyard, and I had always thought my backyard was creepy and we really didn't come back here. And I was like, well, we could move that, put it in a more sunny spot, and we could garden in that one garden bed, right? And so let me get up and show y'all real quick. So why I started gardening? Because I wanted something to do with my daughter during the pandemic. This is where our first raised bed was, and there was just this block bed, and it was probably this long. So we didn't have the extra, I guess, 2 bricks. We started gardening right here in this one block bed. The reason why I set it where I set it, so this is me saying how I came up with the design. The reason why I set the bed or put the bed where it was because I knew it would get more sun. One of the main things you want to think about when you are setting up a garden is, where is your sun coming from? Where is your shade coming from? If we're honest, if you're going to get trees cut, because when we originally put that garden bed on the other side of the garden, that tree was not as big, but I also wasn't getting the tree cut. So the more the tree grew over the years, the more it started to shade that bed. Think about those things. Where is your sun coming from? That's where your garden should be set up. And if you're gonna set it up around trees, for instance, I am talking about now getting these trees behind me cut, because while this was a perfect space, now the trees are growing and I haven't gotten them cut. My first year was awful, right? But I was loving it so much. Like, even though I was getting these small little harvests, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm growing my own food back here, even if it's not a lot. My first thought was, when it's not garden season anymore, and actually I started watching garden videos even when it was garden season, but once like the season was over, because I didn't know I could grow a fall garden either. When I thought, okay, the season is over, I started watching garden channels like back to back to back. Jess from Roots and Refuge was one of the first ones that I found. I also found Justin Rose. This was 5 years ago. And so a lot of his content was simply homesteading and gardening. Oh, I think I found the Millennial Gardener at that point. I found James Prigioni. You know, those are the larger channels that you find when you are trying to start gardening. And I learned from anybody. If I like the way they teach, if I can understand what they're teaching, I learn from anybody. Now I watch other people that I found because I was looking for other things. So like, for instance, Broke Farmer for my citrus trees. I watch Broke for all my citrus tree stuff. Sage and Stone Homestead. I want goats one day, so I watch Sage and Stone. Not to mention, she has an amazing greenhouse in her backyard, so she's growing and raising goats, 2 things that I like. I went and found channels that work for me. That's what I did in the off season. And so then I think, don't quote me, y'all, I don't know, it's over on Instagram if you want to see like my whole garden like setup. How I got things done is on Instagram, but I'm not going to go back through them to figure it out. But anyway, started with this one block bed. So the next thing I did, because I know like in this space, my sun is good, I said, all right, we're going to add another garden bed. And that was when we added the other block bed over here. I'm sorry that probably looked crazy because it's just very hard to get around the garden right now. Not hard, but like I got to squeeze through and stuff. But you know what? Let me go on the other side and explain that to y'all. My bad. So like I said, now I know in this space the sun was good. So I decided to go ahead and add this block bed. These blocks came from Facebook Marketplace, the majority of them. And then the rest I just went and picked up at Home Depot and Lowe's. I did both of them depending on what store I was in. With my first 2 block beds, we did not have good soil. I don't think the third one did either, but I'm not 100% sure about that. But I can tell you now, these first 2, they were not great soil because I was not aware that like you really needed to, and need is a little bit iffy. If you don't want to have to work on it so much, getting good soil from the start is a good idea. If you don't know, can't afford it, whatever the reason is, the cheap soil from Home Depot and the cheap soil from Lowe's will work. You're going to have to work on the soil though. So if you're not new here, you know these block beds, I am constantly working on them because they're just, I have to build the soil up in them. And it's been 5 years and I'm still doing it, but I'm okay with that because I'm not going to take the soil out and put the soil back in to, get more soil. So I picked up some soil. Oh, other thing that I thought about the other day, and maybe a reason why I have some problems in these beds, because I didn't know no better. And I think I saw it on like Instagram or Google. People were putting plastic bags from the store to keep the weeds out. And that is what I did in these 2 beds. I thought about it the other day. So the next time I go through to break the soil up, I'm going to dig down to try to get as much of those bags out as possible. I didn't know any better, and that's okay too. So I put the soil in here and I started growing. It was a better season because I had resources. I could go to YouTube, and I was like amazed at how many people on YouTube was gardening, and there's so much information out there. How do you start a garden? Check your sun, decide where your beds are gonna go, then decide what kind of beds you're gonna use. Other thing I didn't know about grow bags. I didn't know really about the metal raised beds. I was seeing people build raised beds. I don't like to build nothing. So when I saw blocks as an option, I was like, oh, that's a quick way for me to get started. And so that's how my first 3 beds ended up being block beds. Not long after I added that second bed, I went ahead and added this bed. Now, this bed does not have plastic under it. Do you want to know why? Because by that time, I learned that, yes, it may keep the weeds out, but it's also probably going to prevent some of your growth. So this bed does not have plastic under it. I didn't even lay cardboard for this one. I literally just put the soil in there. Because just like now, I can be a little bit, want to do it the easier way. And so I don't know, you want to call it lazy, call it what you want to call it. I didn't feel like putting cardboard in there. And I was still watching my son to make sure that bed was going to get enough sun. So my first 3 beds were in the middle of my yard, and there was nothing else around them because I was planting them based off of my son. That's how it all started. And I would love to be able to actually point out what came next. Everything came next. You know what came next? My blueberry bushes. Eventually, I knew I wanted blueberry bushes. It was fall time. I was watching videos, reading things, because believe it or not, I did used to do a lot of research when I first started gardening. But then for me, it just became so overwhelming. You could read one website that said, do it this way, then another website would say, do it this way, and it just became overwhelming to me. And so I tell you what I did. I was watching YouTube videos, so I tried a lot of the things that I saw people do on YouTube, and then eventually I got like I am right now. We're gonna try it, see how it works. If it works, cool. If it doesn't, also cool. Which It's kind of working out for me. Anyway, I knew that I could plant these in fall. I did not start out with 6 blueberry bushes. I feel like I started out with maybe 2. There was one on each end. Don't quote me on that. And then I also realized that there were different varieties, different cultivars, I think is what they're called, where they could be high bush or low bush. So they wouldn't get really big. The sun came from here. So if the sun was coming from here, I didn't want these to be really big bushes because then it would shade the things back here. I rarely cut these or anything. If they do get tall, I do cut them, and I pretty much just did that for the first time this year because I want to keep them low. I also started to compost in a tote and collect rainwater. I can't remember. Oh, in the black trash cans, because I was seeing where, collecting water was good, composting was good. And so I started to compost in a tote. Eventually we got to the compost pile we got now that we definitely finna take down. That's where I was. I had the 3 garden beds in, I had the blueberries in, I had a way to compost, and I had a way to collect water, rainwater, right? And then eventually I started watching Charles Dowding. And guess what he did? No dig. In case you don't know what no dig is, basically you cut the grass down, the weeds, you lay cardboard over it, you wet that cardboard up really well, you put soil or compost over top of it, wet that really well, and you can literally start planting that day into that garden bed. That's when I started looking around the garden and saying, hey, where could I just do a no dig? And that's what I started doing. So the asparagus patch is a no dig patch. This patch right behind us is a no dig patch. This area here is a no dig patch. This is no dig. We're not gonna keep going, but you get my drift. I started just doing no dig. And then at some point, because also this entire area before just the last few years was no dig, because I was also thinking about walkway space, right? Eventually I decided, because I wanted all of this stuff to grow in. I was like, you're small enough to get through these areas, baby. Just put this stuff down. But this whole area was no dig as well, because I wanted to start growing more in my space. I did not measure anything. I did not think about the size of the beds. I'm just being honest with you. I said, is there a space I can use where I still have a walk space that I can use to grow things? And then I learned about grow bags, because at that point I couldn't put any more beds in or plant in ground because there was no space for that. I could have figured out the grow bags when I was also doing the no dig. It's a blur, guys, but I do know how it started, and I do know that I added on. This is 5 years in the making, and it's still being made, if that makes sense. Every day I'm looking for other spaces. So then we started talking about grow bags. So I just went on Amazon. I didn't go searching for the best grow bags. I just went searching for grow bags. And then I just purchased more. I just decided we're going to put grow bags wherever they can fit. And so that's how you ended up with grow bags down this middle section. This year we just added grow bags here and in between the beds as well. And then of course you have the grow bags back here. They've been here for a few years. I decided after using the bamboo stakes, before I use things that maybe cost more than other things, I tried the cheaper ways. And I still use bamboo stakes, but I do not use them for my tomatoes because it was a mess. And I'm not telling anybody else not to. For me, it was a mess, and I'm in a small space. So if my tomatoes are falling over or laying down, that makes it harder for me to get around my garden. That is why I ended up doing the T-post, and we started doing the Florida weave on the tomatoes. And I think that just happened 2 years ago. I worked with those bamboo stakes at least for 2 years before I said, I can't do this anymore because it made it messy. We started using the T-post and putting things on the Florida weave. I'm trying to find something different now for that because that makes too much work for me. And when I do, I'll let y'all know what I find. And then, of course, I can't remember when we started adding the cattle panel trellis. I can't remember, but it wasn't done all at once. I think I ended up with maybe 2, but it was actually just 1 cattle panel my first year. Actually, I might have had 4 because I only bought 2 cattle panel. And then I realized, oh, these things are sturdy. They'll be here for a while. And then I went back and bought more, I think, the next year. I was using trellises of like things people had given me out of their yard. Why I use cattle panel now is because those did not work for me. So sometimes people, say cattle panel is expensive. There's other ways you can do it. There are. I'm not telling anybody that there isn't. I've already tried them. I didn't prefer them, and so that's why I have cattle panel. Someone had gave me like some lattice. I had like this little white thing that goes in flower beds. I even tried doing like string on sticks. I just didn't like it. I tried that for peas. I think I tried it for tomatoes. I didn't like it. I decided I was gonna get the cattle panel trellis, but that came many years. No, it didn't come many years. It came like 2 years after I started gardening because I've only been gardening for 5 years. That's when I decided to get the cattle panel trellis. So nothing was done all at once. Not really. I want things that are going to last me. Even the bamboo stakes at this point, I'm able to use them for smaller plants, and that's fine. But then I started buying taller, stronger stakes as well, just because I already tried bamboo stakes. I didn't like them. That's pretty much how I started gardening. What you want to think about is where your sun is coming from, how you decide you want to grow, and then you could just grow in ground where you just plant directly into the ground, add some amendments. But the only thing that you really have to think about is where your sun comes from in that case. I mean, you can start gardening however you want to, right? I just wanted to give you my gardening journey, I guess, to make people know it's not a lot that you have to do. Now, if you want garden beds, then you do your research on which garden beds are gonna work well for you. Garden beds, the raised garden bed, the metal raised garden beds can get expensive. That's something you would wanna go look and see, like, what do I wanna spend on this? Do I even want raised beds? As I'm getting older, baby, I want the raised beds. Now, I really like my block beds because I feel like it gives some contrast out here. But either I got to bend over or kneel down to get to them garden beds. So I'm telling you now, I don't know how long it's going to last. I feel like doing it in different ways gives contrast to my garden. But I'm getting older and my knees and my back not happy about it. But anyway, those are the things that I would say think about. I'm not going to make this hard because it's honestly not hard to get a garden set up. And just like my garden bed was in the wrong spot, you can absolutely put it in the right spot. Now, what I didn't know at the time, I should have used that soil that was already in that bed. I don't even know what kind of soil it was. I just kind of let it sit and it all just kind of went back down into the ground after a while. But yeah, I should have dug it up with a shovel and moved it right on over here. But I didn't. I didn't think about it. Because yeah, soil can be reused. I do not take any soil out of my bags. When I first started, I was absolutely dumping that soil into the compost pile. I only did it 1 year because y'all know I like to do stuff the easiest way possible. I only did it 1 year. I dumped all the soil out the bags into the compost pile. The next year, I had to refill those bags. And I said, yeah, I'm not doing this again. And my thought was, I don't take the soil out of my garden beds. Why in the world would I take the soil out of these bags? So I don't do that anymore. I amend my bags just like I amend the garden beds, and I keep it rolling. And I have had no problems with it. Oh, that's the other thing. That orchard area, I think, was pretty much the last thing that I added. And clearly didn't think through it well because we got to redo it. But that was the last thing I added in the main garden. And we're going to get that redone this year. And it's not going to be a big deal for us. We're going to get it redone. I do not know when, though. What you take from this is, where's your sun? How do you want to grow? Start growing. I mean, that's honestly what I did. I know that people like to research things, and there is nothing wrong with that. If you need more time to research, I say take your time so that you can feel comfortable when you get out here doing it. The other thing I would say is allow yourself to not do great. My first year did not do great, but I was just like, oh, this is relaxing. This is fun. I could be outside. I actually love this. This is making me feel real chill. And I was like, yeah, we're gonna add another garden bed. And that's what I did, y'all. And then of course this year we added the green stalks, which I absolutely love. We also added the citrus this year. And this is simply like me saying what can fit. There was no real plan. I was like, okay, I think the citrus can fit over here. I would like to put them on a paver, and I don't have anything, so I'm gonna put them in bags until I can get them into something else, right? And then I can't remember, I think this is like 3 years old. I was offered this quick tent greenhouse. I took it and I was using it for seed starting and stuff. But then I was like, listen, I could grow vegetables in here. And that's what I did. So even this greenhouse has evolved. Pretty much, I don't do a lot of planning as it relates to my garden because I think that's what helps me keep it fun. When I first got it, I was like, oh, this would be a nice sitting area, a place to store things, a place to start seeds. Then I realized I wasn't getting a lot of sun, but I didn't have nowhere else to put it regardless of where. And if you remember, I wasn't even supposed to be using this side of the yard. So I was like, hey, listen, I could put it in the back and nobody will care. But I've grown a lot in there too. I just figured I would have that conversation with y'all because I've been getting a lot of questions about like, how did I start? Why did I start? That kind of stuff. So I figured since we don't have a lot we got to do anymore, I can start answering the questions that y'all have asked in like video form. So with that being said, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to visit me over on Instagram where I post about the things going on in my garden almost every day. Bye, y'all. By the way, if you want to do a little short story of how you started gardening and how you planned your garden, go ahead and leave that in the comments. Bye, y'all.